Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the meeting to order. And if you'd please rise with me and sing "O Canada."
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. We are a very musical bunch, aren't we? Madam Clerk, would you take the poll, please?
Councillor Mackey,
Present.
Councillor McKay,
Present.
Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert, Councillor Kentner sends his regrets, Councillor Bartley, Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Body is not with us at this moment, Councillor Gregg, Warden Milne,
Present.
Councillor Dobreen,
Present.
Councillor Matrosovs, Councillor Bourdignon,
Present.
Councillor Eccles, and Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
We have all members in attendance with the exception of Councillors Kentner and Body.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and the culture of the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, Wyandot, Wyandot peoples on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Is there any declaration of interest regarding any item on today's council agenda? Seeing none, if one should arise at any time, you feel free to declare it at that time. Adoption of the minutes of the County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated June 8th of this year. Would someone care to move those minutes? Councillor Patterson, Councillor Eccles, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We also have the Long-Term Care Redevelopment Planning Task Force minutes dated June 15th of this year. Someone care to move those, please? Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Hutchison, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have no closed meeting matters. We have no reports. We have one bylaw, and that is bylaw to be introduced, taken as read first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the warden and clerk. It is a bylaw to authorize the granting of an easement in favor of Enbridge Gas from the county regarding, I believe it's the one down at Markdale Hospital on the CP rail, the old CP rail trail. Someone care to move that, please? Councillor Eccles, Councillor Gregg, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. News and celebrations. Councillor Eccles. Spot there. Thank you very much.
Good news and celebrations. A couple of things from West Grey. We have our Lions Club puts on a very large Canada Day celebration, and as of today, may be different for tomorrow, but the fireworks display will go on. Starting at 4 o'clock at the Durham Ball Diamond Fairgrounds Arena Complex in Durham. And further to that, for your schedule, we have an Arts Fest going on the weekend of the 8th and the 9th, and then a Fringe Film Festival, which goes on the following weekend in Durham as well too. So if you want to get festive out, come to West Grey for the month of July. We're doing an awful lot there and would welcome everyone. And for the Fringe Film Festival and any of those wrestling fans, I do still have a couple of free tickets. There is no charge, but on July the 15th, they're having in conjunction with the Fringe Festival, a fight at the Fringe. Professional wrestling is going to happen at the Durham Arena. I don't know whether they're going to film it or whether it's in competition with the WWE, but we're going to have professional wrestling at the Fringe Festival as well too. And one other thing, I would just ask if all of County Council, well, all of us in attendance today could stand up, and especially you, Ms. Keaveney, was the last individual to be celebrated this way. But to let everybody know, June 22nd is the warden's birthday. I think that we all should stand and sing happy birthday and celebrate this momentous day, Mr. Warden. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Warden Millen. Happy birthday to you. Please. And there has never been a happy birthday sang like that before, thankfully.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's most appreciated. If the effort was very much appreciated. The tune was maybe not carried as good as it has been. So anyway, thank you very much. And I'm only I think 36, 37 this year.
Probably 36.
Yeah.
They're a little dyslexic.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else have any news? Let's move along here. Councillor Keaveney.
Microphone would be a good idea about that. Our Canada Day celebrations will begin in Annan on the 30th of June, and that evening there will be a barbecue and family games and fireworks in the great metropolis of Annan. And then moving into Canada Day itself in Meaford, it begins with a pancake breakfast, a partnership between the Rotary Club and the Military Family Resource Center. At 11:15, the formal festivities begin with the flag raising and speeches. We will have our MP and MPP present. The Goldenaires will sing "O Canada." And after that, the Rotary does a barbecue. There'll be live music from 12 noon on throughout the day, but the highlight will certainly be at 12:45 when our own Gord Price, at the young age of 81, will be doing another air show. He did a spectacular one last year. He's an honorary snowbird and suggested that last year he was going to pack it in, but this year he's feeling quite prime and is going to be doing another spectacular air show. So anyone who can, please come out to Meaford to see that. And then the festivities move to Bognor, where there will be a vintage car show and again games and live bands and cupcakes for everyone and fireworks in Bognor. So we know how to do up Canada Day in Meaford.
Excellent. Thank you, Shirley. I see Councillor DeBreen has her hand up.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Happy birthday and good morning, County Council. I just wanted to mention that on July 1st in the village of Holstein, there will be an Agra Fair and rodeo, as well as the fireworks festival over the Holstein Pond. And during the day at noon until 3 in Dundalk, there is the Canada Day Connects and meal. Pre-registration for that is required. Hope to see some of you out.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else? Counselor Carlton.
So I would just like to pay tribute again today to Robert Knapp, who was 2022 Senior Volunteer of the Year Award, or won that award with Georgian Bluffs, and the Ontario Senior of the Year Award. He has been a trail captain for the Bruce Trail in Georgian Bluffs for over 30 years. He has played an instrumental role in maintaining and enhancing one of our most cherished natural resources, and his efforts in establishing the rail trail in Sarawak have provided a valuable asset to our community, further promoting outdoor activities and connectivity to the natural world. Beyond that, he has volunteered as a blacksmith at Morriston Village and Grey Roots Museum, and he spent 15 years as a big brother. So pretty impressive list of contributions and a wonderful person. So congratulations to Bob Knapp. And Canada Day in Georgian Bluffs will be at Big Bay Dock at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we will be serving a pancake breakfast. So everyone is welcome. No fireworks because we're part of the provincial band north of Highway 21. So have a good Canada Day, everyone.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Counselor McQueen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and just to think that your birthday wish was recorded. So just pleased to announce that on July 6th at 10 a.m. that there will be the groundbreaking for the new school in Markdale. So that's been something that's been well anticipated, and it's good to see that that's starting, and they're hoped to be in by September of 2024. Just depends on, I guess, how everything works out, but they do have the options of January 1st as well. So up to 2025, but great news there. It's the same time as exact same time as the opening of the Hogs Falls addition there. So I guess there will be some conflict or swing by afterwards or whatever and see where they're building the new school. Also, July 30th, we're having fireworks in Feversham in the evening, and then June 30th in Feversham, and then July 1st will be at the Priceville ground, usually starting around 7 o'clock, and the fireworks will be allowed there, I guess, unless something changes. So anyway, those are some of the things that are happening in and around our area. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? Counselor Matrosov.
Thank you, Warden Milne. I want to compartmentalize this to recognize that yesterday was National Indigenous Day. We took a moment in our community to be able to celebrate that with an art installation by Indigenous artist Catherine Corbiere, who hails from Manitoulin, and her work is now installed at the very top, at the Swiss Meadows top of Blue Mountain Resort. So as you're throughout the summer, as you're hopefully able to visit over into our east side of the county, I hope you'll be able to rope that into your tour, because it is quite phenomenal. It towers over you. You can stand in the middle and you can read the Indigenous wording that's up in the sculpture itself. And there is a nice interpretive sign there to kind of lend you into her thought process that goes to that. And we really wish that we could be able to share that with as many in Grey County as possible. I do also want to recognize that this week we did do our Ontario Senior of the Year presentation in our municipality to Ms. Rosemary Gosselin, who has for many years contributed to the sustainability of our municipality, and she was nominated from various different circles, and we celebrated all the contributions that she has made as a senior in our community for that. And for our events coming up, I would just like to make sure that everybody, if you're looking for something to do before July 1st, this coming Saturday we have our Children's Festival sponsored by the Clarksburg Village Association right in our Lions Park, our municipal Lions Park of Clarksburg. So if you're looking for something to do with some little ones, come on to that. It starts at 11 o'clock and it'll go as far as 3 o'clock. And there are lots of free activities involved, including one called Make a Craft with the Mayor. So please drop by for that. And if you'd like to look at what happens at our July 1st activities, if this is going to be the location you choose to celebrate July 1st, please come to our exploreblue.ca website for all the details of all the programs going in. You can begin with breakfast with the Legion. I'll put in that little shot there. And then after that, enjoy the rest of the day with us as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Go ahead. But the names are.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just would like to acknowledge the 50th anniversary of Lee Manor. It was celebrated this week, and I'd like to recognize Executive Director Stacey Goldie and her team for putting on a wonderful event on Tuesday afternoon. As part of her remarks, Stacey talked about the evolution and changes that have happened in the structure and the building of Lee Manor, but noted the one constant, which is the care and commitment of the team members that make Lee Manor much more than a building, that makes it a home where we strive to color it their way, the residents' way. It was a wonderful afternoon and just the beginning of a long legacy that of care and service that is known by Grey County for over 100 years of providing care and service for our community. So I'd just like to recognize that 50-year anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And indeed, it is a wonderful legacy that you and your staff have initiated and continue to provide to our residents. Anyone else? I have one item. Well, it's a bunch of items into one. And I told Savannah I'd take a run at this, but she's going to have more, I'm sure. But Kim and Savannah and Steve Furness and Randy and I went down to Whitby on Monday and Tuesday of this week. And we were there because Grey County was chosen as one of the top 21 intelligent communities in the world, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. The current top community is Taipei City from Taiwan, and they had a delegation there. There was quite a broad, diverse group of people that participated in the event, and it was very, I found it very interesting, really, really cool. We started the day on Monday at the Ontario Tech University, touring that university. They have a number of research projects and facilities there to accommodate research. And one of the things that stuck out for me was that they have a building there that has what they call, I think they called them climate rooms. They have wind tunnels, and they can replicate weather or create weather within one of these rooms to go down as low as minus 40 Celsius or as high as 60 Celsius. And when they produce that weather inside that room, they have the ability then to recreate it over and over and over again exactly the same way, so that different parameters or different metrics can be done to see how, like one project that they mentioned was that there was a gentleman that was trying to determine how wind and weather affects a water skier behind an airplane, which was kind of weird. But anyway, I thought, well, that's cool. One of the other really cool projects has anybody heard of the Project Arrow? It's the electric car that has been sourced and built exclusively with Canadian products and talent. And the car has toured all over Canada, of course, but the actual car was there that day. We were there and we got to see it and take pictures. It was pretty cool. They're doing a lot of research on that. What else? So then and we toured some nuclear place too. That was pretty cool. The second day took place at the Barrett Center of Innovation in Sustainable Urban Agriculture. It's a building at part of Durham College, and they have apple trees. They had all kinds of crops, truck crops as they used to call it, vegetables, fruits, and they had bees there, apiary. Very neat. Bunch of different speakers from different parts of the world. just a couple things that I jotted down was that technology in itself is not the goal. The goal of any innovation in technology is how can we harness or make that technology serve our community and our residents? And that was one of the big metrics on how this organization judged the various communities around the world. It wasn't enough to just have this cool technology. It was how you were using that technology to benefit our communities. So in that respect, I think we're in really good shape here in Grey County because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are thinking up and dreaming up really neat things, because at the end of the day, innovation is the only competitive advantage that we have. Everything else can be copied and replicated. But if you're constantly innovating, you're ahead of the game. And I thought that was pretty strong statement to make. Slabtown Cidery was the final event of Tuesday, I guess, later Tuesday for supper. They had the announcement of the top 7 there. While Grey County did not make the top 7, Durham Region did. And I believe there was one other from Ontario, but the others were from the US and across the world. But I wasn't disappointed because making the top 21 was pretty impressive, I thought. And a lot of that credit goes to Savannah and all of our staff, in fact, for putting that whole package together and articulating to the organization how Grey County is crushing it in the world. Final thought, there was a gentleman there from Iowa, and Iowa is a big state, and they have a complete blanket from one end to the other, as you can imagine, of corn and soybeans. But interestingly enough, Iowa imports over 90% of the food they eat. In spite of being, a lot of people think Iowa is a breadbasket of the US, they import 90% of their food that they eat because everything else is corn and beans, with a lot of it will go into the industrial market. As former Warden Don Lewis has told me on many occasions, I'm sure others, Iowa spills more corn at harvest than Ontario grows. So, you know, it's a pretty big industry down there. There was a lot of other stuff, and I'm going to let Savannah, or I'll ask Savannah if there was anything she wanted to add, because I'm sure I missed tons of stuff.
Thank you, Warden. You did great. I think your, excitement really bodes well for this. And I think that's what we felt the whole time that we were there, is that we had a reason to be there because Grey County is doing amazing things and it is worth being recognized. So that is a report that I will bring back this summer for you so that you can see what was highlighted throughout our applications, and you can get as excited as we are about what Grey County is accomplishing between the departments and all of our municipalities and our businesses and our community. And the theme of the conference, it was called Better Together, which really, really fits the work that we're doing here and that regional approach and that collaboration. So we are fortunate to hold on to that top 21 intelligent communities status for all of 2023, and we can look back on it for years to come, which is really, I think, a pleasure for us. And what I did not realize being in Durham region was just how similar they are to us. So there is a lot that we can learn from what they have gone through with clean energy and what they're going through now, and with their agriculture as well. I think we brought Georgian College with us to the conference, and they saw a lot of similarities too. So I think what we are reassured of is that we are doing great work, something that we should be very, very proud of. And it's definitely worth celebrating, which we will do with you this summer. And that now we can cheer along Durham region as they go for their top 7 in New York this fall.
Thanks, Savannah. And just while you were saying that, it reminded me that at one point, one of the speakers from Durham region said, "We are the apple capital of Ontario." And I thought, holy mackerel, it's a good thing Shirley's not here. There'd be a fisticuffs at the front. So anyway, the further you get from home, the bigger the cattle herd in the hat gets. But anyway, we had a good time, and I think we came home energized to keep going. Okay, anyone else? Not seeing any. I need a motion to adjourn the council portion of our meeting today. Councillor McQueen and Councillor Nielsen. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We'll now just take a second to flip over to our committee of the whole. Got the thumbs up. Thank you, Rob. Call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole today to order today. Is there any declaration of interest on this agenda? Not seeing any. Again, if one should arise, can make us aware of it. We have two delegations today. The first is scheduled for now, and Kate Burns Gallagher from there she is. Good morning, Kate. She is with us from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. She's going to give us a presentation on what is going on with the wardens these days. I guess I should know, but Kate will do a much better job of doing it than I will. So welcome, Kate, and the floor is yours.
Thank you and happy birthday, Warden. Such a pleasure to be here today. My apologies. I was really looking forward to being in person. Grey County is one of our most picturesque and beautiful counties. And unfortunately, in this case, sharing is not caring. So I'm staying put to not share these wonderful germs with all of you. So I look forward to coming up this summer and taking part in some of the great events that I just heard about. So through you, Warden, to County Council, my name is Kate Burns Gallagher. I'm the Executive Director of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And I'm joining you here today to talk a little bit about our 2023-2024 strategic priorities. For those council members who are new, this is to give you an overview of what we do. And for those who have been around the county table for some time, it's a little bit of a refresher. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we have a PowerPoint. And we'll do this here. Fantastic. And there we go. There we go. Perfect. So as I mentioned, we are the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And we are the 16 upper and single tier municipalities. And we are just most recently the 16. You will see Haldimand County there on the far east, southeast, is trying us on for size this year. And we're really excited to have them join. And they'll be looking in October at their budget cycle to consider becoming a member of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. So we are those, in that map you see there, the upper and single tier municipalities. We represent over 300 communities, more than 1.5 million residents, so 20% of the population of Ontario, 500,000 square kilometers. And the glue that really binds us all together, this great big region, is we are 90% rural. And that is really what our Western Ontario Wardens Caucus is all about. We are a rural caucus representing our 16 members and the work that is most important to our rural communities. What's our purpose? So we are really that one voice. Although we are that really big region, there are so many similarities from our rural county perspective. So we speak with one voice. The power of 16 wardens and mayors from across Western Ontario is incredible. And we are that conduit to both the province and the federal government, getting those big issues that affect all of our counties to the province and to the federal government. So we are that conduit from our members to the other pieces of government, or the other levels of government, my apologies. And how do we do that? How do we operate? Well, we have our caucus, which is well represented by your warden, who's been a fantastic addition to our caucus this year, and we're really pleased to have him. And the caucus is driven by a number of components. So we have our CAOs table, which includes your CAO, Kim Wingrove, who has been an incredible asset to the WOWC and a huge driver of our economic development work. And then we have our staff. I am the full-time executive director. Then we have a part-time manager of government relations and a part-time administrative coordinator. And as I mentioned, Kim was critical to the development of our economic development strategy. And from our strategy was our economic development committee. And that committee is represented by elected officials, stakeholders, staff, and representatives and partners from across the region to drive the economic development strategy. From there, in the past year, we've added our subject matter expert groups, and these are our staff teams, our eyes and ears, our boots on the ground to really drive the work that we're looking at in our priorities. So from our subject matter expert groups, we have the planning team, which is represented by Gray with Scott Taylor, our social services with Anne-Marie Shaw, our communications, which is represented by Robert Hatton, and our economic development by none other than Savannah Myers. So these are the R&D groups. We rob and duplicate amongst our teams, And we also take the information that we're hearing on the ground and bring it up to the caucus level. And how do we do that? We do it through our advocacy. So we do that with meetings with ministers and senior government officials, both at the typical Roma conference and AMO, but also outside. A really great example is at the end of last month, we were able to get Minister Thompson, Parliamentary Assistant Ray, and the Speaker of the Legislature, Ted Arnott, on a call to talk about the provincial planning statement and the huge implications that those 3-lot severances would have on our rural communities, on our farming community, and specifically on Western Ontario. And a few short days after that meeting, we were pleased to see that the government clawed back that proposal of the 3-lot severance. So we have incredible strength. We have great representation with our other elected officials. And one of the ways we do that is this past April, before we launched our strategic priorities, on April 14th, we invited all of our members of parliament and provincial members of parliament to a joint meeting. And we put forward our strategic priorities to them. There's only one taxpayer at the end of the day and one voter at the end of the day. And those people vote for you individuals around the table as mayors and councillors. They also vote for the members of provincial parliament and the members of parliament. So everyone represents the same constituents. And so those MPs and MPPs can really be our advocates both on Parliament Hill and at Queen's Park. So that's why we got everyone around the table. We had over 50 individuals from across the region on a virtual call to get that information to them. What's our priorities are also their priorities. And we had some great feedback, and a large number of those MPs and MPPs have turned into advocates for us, which is fantastic. And we also do it, as that last point notes, with incredible partnerships with SWIFT, with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, FCM, and our partners in Eastern Ontario. What are those priorities? Well, I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone around the council table. Housing is a key priority in Western Ontario. And we are really honing in our work this year into the very specific asks. So when the province last November decided to do away with development charges, they promised also at that time to keep municipalities whole. So we are asking and keeping the feet to the fire of the provincial government on what keeping municipalities whole means. We want a definition. We want to know what that means. And so we'll be going into AMO in August asking that question. And secondly, Building Homes Faster Act, we know the province has indicated to the 29 fastest growing communities the targets they need to build. As part of our work with the workforce strategy, we also looked at housing. And we know across the region as a whole, we need 174,000 new housing units. And we know per county how many housing units we need. But we want to know what the government expects of us. So we can say, this is how many we need, but how many are you expecting of us? So we want to make sure that those numbers match. And that's another item we'll be talking with the provincial government about in August. Alternatively, on the federal side, on the Housing Accelerator Fund, right now the threshold for applications is 10,000, the population of 10,000 for communities. And that's a real struggle. That means that any community with 11,000 population is competing against the likes of Ottawa, Toronto, London. So we're simply asking the federal government to up that Housing Accelerator Fund population threshold to 100,000, which is typically that urban-rural divide is that population of 100,000. And we're asking them to do that for the Housing Accelerator Fund. Our second priority is workforce to support economic growth. Just last week, we were able to meet with the Deputy Minister and Assistant Deputy Minister of Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training, Skills Development. And what we are asking for is for the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program to really focus in on the occupations that are most in need in Western Ontario. I mentioned earlier how we've done our workforce strategy, and we know the top in-demand jobs we need in our region going up to 2040. And we are so pleased to see that 2 of the 5 of those top occupations, so managers in agriculture and horticulture and nursing support services, are included in the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, but still 3 of our 5 are not. And that includes retail sales, people cooks, and transit drivers. So we continue to push to both the staff and the political side to ensure that those occupations that we need in our region are included in the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. And likewise, when we're talking to the federal government, you might have even seen recently in just this week that we need to have a faster transition and an easier transition for those temporary foreign workers in our communities to permanent residents. So there's a real push also in the media on that. Pardon me. And last but not least, on our showcase priorities, we've just recently added mental health, addictions, and homelessness to our priorities. And this is something new for our rural communities, definitely, but it's a growing issue and a growing concern. So our first ask is to the provincial government to ensure that the mobile crisis response team, so that's where a social service individual is paired with either a police officer or an OPP, that program receives permanent funding. Right now is an application-based funding program, and come March 31st every year, a number of the programs don't know if they get to continue on April 1st. So we're asking for permanent funding for that program because that program is seeing incredible benefit to our rural communities. And secondly, we are asking for a dedicated rural stream for the homelessness prevention program. Homelessness in rural communities is very different than our urban centers. It's couch surfing, it's living in a car, it's not having a permanent home. It looks very different than homelessness in our urban counterparts. So we're asking for a rural dedicated stream for that homelessness prevention program. Those are our three strategic priorities that are showcase priorities, but that doesn't mean we're not continuing to do work on our other priorities, one of which being broadband infrastructure and SWIFT. SWIFT, the project, the fiber in the ground will wrap up this fall. However, SWIFT will continue on to make sure that that 50/10 upload download speed is maintained over the course of the next 7 years. So we've seen some great benefit to SWIFT in our communities, and we look forward to the next chapter of SWIFT moving forward, and we continue to support SWIFT in those endeavors. As I mentioned, our economic development work, just this past Friday, our economic development committee came together to identify the priorities they see moving forward in the course of the next year, and workforce is number one on those priorities. And we will continue to work with our economic development subject matter expert team and the committee to move those priorities that are crucial to our economy moving forward. And we do all this work, it cannot be understated, without community partners. Community Vouchers Western Ontario is an investor in our economic development strategy and our economic development work. Workforce Planning West is also a huge key player in our workforce development work. And then we also make sure we align really well with Ontario Big City Mayors, Eastern Ontario Warrens Caucus, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And then you see at the bottom a list of other organizations that we've worked on specific projects with. If you're looking to stay up to date and keep apprised of what we are doing as a Western Ontario Warrens Caucus, we have our website, which is wowc.ca. We have our monthly newsletters and press releases that come out. We are still on Twitter for the time being, and we are on Facebook as well. And just a little overview of the benefits of membership. What are the benefits for Grey County as being part of the Western Ontario Warrens Caucus? It's really the seat at that regional table. We talked about that one voice and what the power of all 16 of those counties coming together means. So Grey County ensures you have a seat at that broader regional table. It's that advocacy to the provincial and federal governments. And there's that value in the staff support networks through the subject matter expert teams that cannot be overplayed enough. There's so much value in that R&D. And last but not least, there's also access to those regional projects, such as Connect On, which is a mapping tool for agriculture and manufacturing communities. And right now we're just in the throes of launching the Rural Housing Information System in partnership with the Rural Ontario Institute, and bringing all of the housing information for across the region together. So we are so pleased that Grey County is a member and a vital member to our caucus. And if there's any questions, then please answer them. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Warden Milne.
Well, thank you, Kate. And I can feel that cold in your voice and I feel for you. So thank you for soldiering through so well. Are there any questions for Kate from the council? No, I don't see any. So thank you very much, Kate, and thank you for the birthday wishes. It's a good reminder. Thank you very much. And I can speak very highly of Kate. She does a tremendous job for the caucus. She's very resourceful and always very helpful. So thank you, Kate, and thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye now. Okay, our other delegation will be later in our meeting. So the next item do we need a motion to receive that delegation? No. Okay. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Does anybody want any of the consent items removed from the consent agenda? Not seeing any. Would someone care to move receiving of Councillor Matrosov's and Councillor Gregg? Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Items for direction and discussion. Would we like a 5 or 10 minute recess? It's almost 11:15. You want to? Yes. Yes? Okay, let's come back at 5 to 11. Let's say that 10:55. Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order. I'll just wait for Captain Rob. Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much. Got the big thumbs up. Our first item for direction and discussion is Grey Roots operating or this year's operating plan progress update. And Jill Patterson is here to give us that report. Would someone care to move acceptance? Thank you, Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle. Jill, welcome and good morning. I love that picture that's up. Although if they'd held the ribbon a little bit lower, I could have got down on my knees and cut that. But nonetheless, it was a great event and I appreciated the invitation.
Okay, good morning, Warden Milne and Grey County Council. This report serves as a progress update on the actions and priorities outlined in the Grey Roots operating plan that was endorsed by Council in March of 2022. This is the second update reviewing performance measures from January 1st to May 31st, 2023. The formalized Grey Roots accessibility plan is also included. As outlined in the operating plan for 2022-2023, Grey Roots continues to focus on collaboration, accessibility, sustainability, and evaluation as strategic goals. The following items provide examples of initiatives and actions taken in the last 7 months in support of these goals. So to start with our first goal of collaboration, we can go to our next slide. Oh, I can go to the next slide. Can I? Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Just to discuss our Indigenous Advisory Circle that's ongoing, we are humbled by the learnings and the conversations that the group has facilitated through the circle. The IAC continues to meet to build relationships and improve the representation of Indigenous history and culture at Grey Roots. The group met in February and March, and feedback was provided on several projects, in particular the development of the content for the new exhibit in the Grey County Gallery. Staff look forward to incorporating the circle's suggestions and advice in coordinating future meetings. And you can see in the picture that is Elder Lenore Kishig from Neyashingaming, and she joined us with Anishinaabe cultural experiences at the Spring into Morriston event, where she's speaking to some visitors. The Grey County Community Cultural Initiatives Fund is a program that supports partnerships and collaborations that create new opportunities for community building and raise awareness of Grey County's diverse cultural history. This year, the number of applications taught us that there is certainly a community demand for this type of support. We send our congratulations to the organizations and individuals who were selected as recipients for 2023. And those include Anishinaabe Cultural Experiences, the Grey Bruce Chinese Heritage and Cultural Association, Lily Ann Holding, who's doing a great project about the Greek community in Owen Sound, Direct Descendants and Community Friends of Negro Creek, Old Durham Road Black Pioneer Cemetery Committee, and the Gitche Name Wadong Reconciliation Garden. The next collaboration we're working on is really exciting. The Blue Water District School Board has proposed a collaboration with Grey Roots to offer a new location for its specialist skills, high skills major program in agriculture. This program exposes students to a variety of agriculture subjects and skills such as horticulture, crop science, animal science, and livestock production. By moving the location of the program to Grey Roots, it becomes more accessible to students, as Owen Sound is a transportation hub on the bus system. At the March 18th, 2021 Agriculture Advisory Committee, members asked staff to determine whether the partnership may be feasible. Staff have been working with the school board over the last 18 months and are now in the process of working through a draft agreement that would see the pilot partnership run from February to June in 2024. Staff will bring forward the final agreement for council consideration. If the pilot is approved and successful, the intent is to develop a long-term partnership. And then we've been doing a number of community collaborative events. We engage community groups to collaborate on public events at the museum. This year saw the return of the Lunar New Year celebrations organized by the Chinese Heritage and Cultural Association. During Black History Month, we worked with Ben Haywood McLeod, organizer with the Descendants and Community Friends of Negro Creek, and author Gail Miller Jackson to discuss Black History in Gray. This group returned in March for a talk exploring the early Black settlers of Negro Creek. And that's a picture from our Lunar New Year event, which was really great. Our next strategic goal is accessibility, and Grey Roots staff have formalized an accessibility plan as part of the annual application for the Community Museum Operating Grant offered by the Province of Ontario. Guided by principles of dignity, independence, integration, and equality of opportunity, this plan sets out the current actions and future goals at Grey Roots Museum and Archives to provide high-quality accessibility and inclusive services for people of all ages and abilities. The plan was presented to the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee on May 10th, and for review, and the comments were well received. Then, Kids Camp, we know, plays an important role for parents to help ease the burden of childcare in the summer months. And staff will continue a collaboration with the Blue Water District School Board on an inclusive, integrated community initiative to offer kids camp spaces to children with individual education plans or diagnoses that may often exclude them from summer camp experiences. Kids camp staff will work with the school board staff to create a positive integrated camp experiences for those participants. And then to speak of some accessibility of our collections, archives have a few digitization projects that have come into effect. Images from glass plates and film have been digitized and are available to view on the archives database. The negatives of the work are the work of two Owen Sound photographers from the mid-19th and early 20th centuries. And they show local streetscapes and harbor scenes and vessels and more. Also, select Grey County archival records were digitized with the support of a provincial municipal modernization program fund. Currently, the records are not publicly accessible, but have improved the efficiency of internal research. Opportunities to provide public access will be explored in the future. And then our last strategic goal, our next one is sustainability. And Grey Roots has looked for opportunities to improve the sustainability of our environment and business practices. We've replaced 6 heat pumps in the museum building that were part of the building condition assessment and the equipment life cycle. The new heat pump technology is expected to increase efficiency of energy use and should positively impact utility costs. And I know Ted Noble has already looked at the graphs and he's really excited about the positive use of energy there. We've also been working with our engagement staff to develop a number of new paid programming options to better utilize the space and staff resources. To optimize the space in our 75-seat theater at Grey Roots, staff have curated a popular concert series called Our Roots Are Showing. The 4-concert series featured a variety of talented creative artists from the local area, and all shows have been very well attended. In the first quarter of 2023, staff developed 23 paid family programs for all ages and interests, and the program model encourages more visitation through the door as families attend together, and we can replicate those programs. Well, this is our second year of offering Spring into Morriston. This year was the first time we applied an admission fee. The event targeted families and offered a variety of children's activities and performers and experiences, and we welcomed more than 600 visitors and on that day. And staff will continue to hone this spring event in the future years. And then on to our last strategic goal. Grey Roots has been participating in the development of the new Economic Development, Tourism and Culture Strategic Master Plan, which will include a 10-year vision and 5-year action plan for Grey Roots Museum and Archives. In March, a focus group was held with representative stakeholders, volunteers, and visitors to gather as much feedback as possible. We also offered an online survey, and a visioning session was held with members of the Indigenous Advisory Circle. In April, the feedback was further refined at a staff and stakeholder strategic working session, while the work to mold the public comments into realistic actions is ongoing. The response thus far has been encouraging and highlights an interest in increased interactivity and inclusion at Grey Roots. And then these are some of our performance metrics. So basically revenue and numbers of people through the door. These performance indicators are positive heading into our prime visitor season. We are seeing a return to pre-pandemic levels and in some cases even surpassing it. And I do just want to note that 2019 was like a banner year. So we've got like a hard one to compete with, but they had an exhibit that year that had live animals. So it was really popular. So I'm feeling really good about that. I think the story here is that the numbers tell us we're rebounding from the closures of the pandemic, and now it's up to staff to leverage that public interest and provide the best possible experiences and service to the community. So then, just to end on looking ahead, after 2 years of hard work, the Arnott General Store will open for the summer season. It's outfitted in the 1920s period and will be a fantastic addition to the village. We are holding our grand opening ceremony on June 30th, and you should all have an invite with your 2022 year in review. Hope to see lots of you there. Staff and volunteers have also completed a live steam scale railway. We are in the process of conducting safety assessments and hopes to operate it in the next few months. We also have a really great exhibit with us from Science North. It's called Game Changers, and it's the new traveling exhibit here till September. The exhibition explores the evolution of video games, and there are 16 interactive games to try, including a supersized Nintendo controller, Tetris on a giant Game Boy, and a double station for Guitar Hero battles. But I assure you, it's also very educational. There's lots to learn in the exhibit as well. Grey Roots is proud to be working with the Emancipation Festival again on the Speakers Corner event at Grey Roots on August 4th and the Gospel Sunday event on August 6th at Morriston Heritage Village. And our last highlight is that Kids Camp is 100% sold out, with the majority of those spots being sold in the first couple days. So we're really looking forward to having our campers back in July and August. I would say there's a real feeling of optimism at the museum, as it seems like every other day we're launching something or cutting ribbons with the warden, presenting an event, or welcoming large groups of school children on their end of year trips. With the opening of Morriston Heritage Village on July 1st, we'll feel the daily commitment of our valued volunteers as they bring the village to life, along with our stellar group of summer students. I send a huge thank you to the staff at Grey Roots who bring their incredible talents and dedication to everything we do. I thank you for your attention and invite any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jill. And again, you know, the best part of this job that I'm doing is I get to see all these neat things going on right across the county. And Jill and her staff do a great job. I had the good fortune to have a sneak peek of the general store. And as soon as I stepped in the door, some of you might resonate with this. I remembered hiking across to the general store and getting a pack of smokes for Hoppy that used to work for my dad at the mill, from Dorothy Eccles at the general store. And boy, it is really well done. And yeah, I don't think they sell smokes though there. Anyway. Well, maybe they do. I don't, in the back room, I don't know. But anyway, it's really well done. So I encourage everybody to come out and see the general store. So are there any questions for Jill? Councillor Matrosovs, please.
Thank you. Through the warden, thank you very much for the presentation. And I know that when I first arrived here in the year 2000, when I started exploring the history behind my own property and what was there, one of the first things that I did was reach out to the archives. So I'm keenly interested to hear about, you referred to that the next step of the digital archiving was going to be able to share it with the public. It's such an important bridge when people are arriving at whatever decade or century or whenever they're coming, to be able to make a connection to what was there before, whether it's centuries ago, Indigenous, with all the exhibits that you have, but also the settlement patterns that were in that area. So could you just elaborate a little bit more on when we can get to that next step where the public would be able to access? The reason I'm asking through the warden is because sometimes when amateurs such as ourselves want to do a look in history to find out more and be able to make that connection, we don't always know specifically. So we can't hand it to a staff member and say, I'm looking for this information. Sometimes it's a rabbit hole that you need to go down, where you start with something and then you learn about something else and it triggers it. So to be hands-on and be able to do that yourself on your computer as opposed to needing staff would be valuable. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would say we're at a really great time to talk about that as we go through our strategic plan, and we can put that as a priority and try to think through what it would take, what kind of infrastructure we would need on our website, work with our colleagues in IT to sort that out, and think about what records would be most interesting to people and what would be the types of records that people tend to want to see the most, and how do we find a way to make those most accessible. But I think you're right. There's that rabbit hole always happens. And we're so lucky to have Karen Noble as the archivist at Grey Roots because she has it in her head often. So really lucky to have that expertise, but it is something we can look to set as a priority and then build the resources around it that we need.
Thank you, Jill. Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Good morning, everyone. Jill, thanks very much for the presentation. I'm really looking forward. I'm going to certainly try to get to the Arnott General Store opening. I live at Rural Route Arnott and have been there for a long time. So that historical settlement is near and dear to my heart, and certainly appreciate the efforts of Mr. Wielden, in whose grandparents, I believe, were one of the first owners of the store. So that'll be a great event. Just wondering, in your presentation, I know previously, and Randy may be the person to ask this question to, Mr. and Mrs. Everett Hall had donated property just to the west of Grey Roots. Just wondering where the development and the collaboration with Grey County is in regards to that and the potential that the Ag Societies in Grey Roots may have going forward. Thanks.
And I may turn it over to Scott because he's probably got the latest and greatest, but my understanding is that we have now submitted, or will be submitting very soon, the Niagara Escarpment application for that. We do now have an agreement with the two Ag Societies, which is fantastic. So, but maybe I'll turn it over to Scott and he can give their latest in terms of where this exciting project is at.
Scott, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, through you, Warden Milne, and thank you for your question, Councillor Mackey. Yeah, just to build off what Randy was saying, we are very close to submitting the application. We've been working with the two Ag Societies as well as the school board, and Jill highlighted in her presentation that they're looking at bringing the Chesley High Skills Major program to Grey Roots, and that's sort of a two-phase thing. One is to bring it there in the near future. And the second phase would be if that Niagara Escarpment Plan Amendment application gets approved by the Niagara Escarpment Commission, then it would utilize facilities both on the Grey Root site and what's being called the Rawls property, which is the Hall property that you referenced. So it's not moved as quickly as we would have hoped, but we're still hopeful that it's going to be a good partnership between Grey Roots, the two Ag Societies, who at some point might become one Ag Society, and the school board in that regard, all through the generous donation from the Hall. So certainly happy to follow up if there's any further questions, but that's the high level summary at this stage.
Thank you, Scott. Kim, did you have something?
If you would share that, please, Tara. Thanks, it's up. So just to another just shout out to the archives and the wealth of information there, and just the gems that you can find. This was I love dogs, so I did a 2-second search in the archives just while we were chatting here to see what I could see. And there's many lovely pictures of dogs and cats, and you can tell what a wonderful part of people's families they have been since the beginning of time. But this is Agnes McPhail and her dog. And I just thought I would share that with you, but there's all kinds of things like that. And it's really incredible. And if you ever needed a family activity on a rainy day, playing around in the archives can be super fun. So I just want to thank Jill and her staff for everything that they do. It's wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Any other Counselor McKay.
Thank you. First of all, that parcel of land at Gray Roots, hopefully we'll keep pushing to get it through. I met this morning with a couple of, Everett Hall, who gave the land over, and then Henry Feenstra, who's a big pusher to get this going. So, they've spent 10 years out of their life trying to get this going. So, because the rural fall fairs are falling in between, and they want to get one fair that will look after the whole part of Grey County. So the more we can help them out, the better. Also on Arnott Hall, I was born and raised on the second hall in the farm, and used to go up to the store pretty well every day after collecting a 3-cent pop bottle off the side of the road so I get my candy. I think I have a lot of pictures at home off the farm from way back when. So I'm beginning to tell my age now. So I'll try to dig them out and get them up to Gray Roots just to see what I had there. And other family members will like you have some too. So thank you very much.
Any others? Counselor Eccles.
Thank you very much, Jill. And yeah, the gem that Gray Roots is, I don't think we put that out there enough of, and the community support that we have for it. But I do have a slight concern when it comes to the partnership with the Blue Water School Board. And I've seen it a number of times with other different things, certainly within our health delivery, that because nobody else is doing it, or it's fallen some way or another, that the ministry or the association that should be delivering it for some reason doesn't or can't, and all of a sudden it falls on the county, and just for a little bit of help, and the next thing you know, we're into supplying long-term care and end up supporting hospital beds, and how much has been downloaded from the province. And it's only my personal opinion about this, the slightness of how much we're getting, and we might get involved with the Board of Education to supplying education. I think the program that was run at the Chesley High School was phenomenal. It was basically one of a kind in Ontario, and for the farming community, wasn't replicated anyplace because it couldn't, because it was just so excellent. And yet here we are now, all of a sudden, as a municipal governing body, are we starting to delve into delivering education as well too? And I just want to say this to the council: be careful, keep an eye on it, or instead of counselors, we may become educators again. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I can just assure you that it is a partnership in that the Blue Water District School Board is still delivering the program, and we're kind of delivering the space and making sure it's accessible for them. So yeah, we don't pretend to have any expertise in animal husbandry. So we're really happy to have their buy-in and partnership on that. So so I hope that waylays some fears.
Thank you, Jill. Any other questions? Okay, well, with that, I'll thank you very much, Jill, for your presentation. We're very much appreciated. All those in favor of receiving the presentation? That is carried. Thank you very much. Next report is regarding the hiring of a permanent GIS specialist. In the absence of Jody this morning, Kim is going to take that presentation. And so, welcome, Kim. Wait, I need a mover and seconder, please. Just hold on. Councillor Eccles and Councillor Dickert.
Good morning, council. And yes, thank you. I'm standing in for Jody, a poor substitute, but I will do my best with his report. The request before you this morning is to approve the conversion of the current contract GIS position that's in the budget and that we have had for some time into a permanent position. The report outlines some of the rationale around that. Certainly, the position is necessary. The GIS department provides services to almost every county department with the exception of long-term care. They undertake data management, analysis, mapping, web application development, and field data collection that then is used to inform our program decisions. They also provide spatial products directly to residents on the county's public GIS website and open data platform. 6 of Grey County's member municipalities contract 150 hours of GIS support from Grey County annually. And in 2022, the county exceeded contracted amounts to these agreements and provided support for 3 municipalities that while they don't specifically contract services from it, they did require our support and we were able to provide that. We maintain 40 web and mobile-based applications, both internal and public facing, and this number only seems to grow. Again, with our busy world and our the need to understand things in space and time, GIS is really critical to that. The team, which has 2 full-time staff and the contract position, completed approximately 840 support requests last year, and numbers this year again are up. So I won't belabor the point here that we've talked about this before around the table about how difficult it is to recruit talented staff. We did have a contract staff member here who then succeeded in finding full-time employment and has left us. So we have a gap. So we believe that we will be able to recruit successfully and be competitive in the marketplace if we're able to offer a full-time position. You can imagine that there's some institutional knowledge and expertise that it slows us down when we're constantly having to start someone new and get them up to speed. As far as the financial implications of doing that, we don't anticipate that there would be any in 2023, but you would be looking at in the 2024 budget somewhere in the neighborhood of between $3,000 and $13,000 next year, just depending on the band that the new person would come in at. And that's kind of dependent on their seniority and their level of experience. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Kim. Are there any questions? Councillor Greg.
Through you, Warden. My only question is, in terms of evaluating the project on a long-term or ongoing basis, how is that done? Because I know just perhaps more at the municipal level, there are certain areas of focus probably where we're lacking for GIS need right now, and it's more of a preeminent priority. But once we achieve a lot of that work that needs done, do we reevaluate then the role in 3 years to say, okay, we've met a lot of that criteria right off the bat, and we're looking for now things to fill the role, or how I guess the ongoing aspect of the role, just being that so much of it locally is locates, and the information is poor to very poor. Well, once you get that information to good to excellent, what does it look like in 4 years for the role?
Thank you for that question, and I appreciate you asking. My sense of it would be this is one of those areas where it really never ends, that the demand to keep the information up to date, that there's new applications that demand different data sets or updated data sets. There's new information. I'm thinking of Pat and all of the work in transportation for insurance and engineering requirements. It's ongoing. and has only, in the time that we've been involved in GIS, has only just continued to increase.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Kim. Moving on to the next report, it's regarding our 2022 investment report. Councillor Bordenrew, would you care to move that? Thank you. Councillor DeBreen, would you like to second? Thank you. Mary Lou.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This report will be presented by Calvin Robinson. And I'm pleased to introduce you to Calvin. He's our new manager of revenue, so the first manager of revenue for the county. Calvin has held a variety of positions in this building, and I'm pleased to say that this is a great example of someone who's progressed through the organization. Calvin first started as a summer student with transportation services. He moved to finance the following year. Then he moved into a finance officer position in provincial offenses while he completed his university education. And then he came to finance as a financial analyst. While he's been with us, he also completed the Chartered Professional Accountant Designation Program. So he's our first homegrown CPA. Yeah, so he just finished that in December. So we're pretty proud of him. And he's here today to present the investment report.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Calvin. And I can only imagine your first summer working for Pat. You're probably wondering, why in the heck does this cost so much? So let's see what we can do. So welcome.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Mary Lou, for the introduction. First and foremost, happy birthday, Warden Milne. And through you, good morning, members of council. So I'm excited to be here today and have the opportunity to present the 2022 investment report to be received for information. So just some background info. Section 418 of the Municipal Act provides authority for a municipality to invest money that it does not require immediately in prescribed securities. If a municipality has done so, OREG 43897 requires that the municipality prepares and provides an investment report each year. So this report today provides a summary of the investment activity that occurred in 2022 to satisfy that obligation. So all of the county's financial investments are governed by the council-approved cash and investment management policy. So at a high-level summary, the main objectives of this policy are to ensure the preservation of capital in the portfolio remains sufficiently liquid to meet cash flow requirements and limit the need for borrowing, obtain a competitive rate of return in the portfolio. Also, that any revenue exceeding the 1% of net budgeted levy threshold be placed into the one-time funding reserve, and to only invest in securities that are expressed or payable in Canadian dollars. So to get into some of the 2020 info, so you'll see here that at December 31st, 2022, we had cash on hand of just over $75 million. So this is about 7.7 million higher than the December 31st balance of just over 67 million. So BDO touched on this a bit in their report on June 8th, but some of this increased balance is attributed to our increased development charges revenue we received in 2022, as well as just the timing on deferred revenue balances, and also a higher payable balance at December 31st. And as we're probably all aware, 2022 was the year of interest rate hikes. So these hikes resulted in increased rates on the funds sitting in our bank accounts. So to quantify this a bit, so in December of 2022, the funds sitting in our general bank were accruing interest at 4.58%. So this was 3.97% higher compared to December of 21. So as you can see in the chart on the right, the combination of the higher bank balance and also these increased interest rates resulted in interest income of just under 1.6 million compared to 341,021 for our cash on hand. So although our cash on hand increased by about 11.5% from 2021, the interest income on those funds increased by 363%. So moving on to our investment balances, you can see in 2022, we took advantage of the change in interest rates to capitalize on better investment opportunities to invest about 7.5 million more in various securities. So by investing more at better rates, our investment income increased by about 230,000 compared to 2021. So although our principal balance of investments increased by about 21%, we saw an increase to the investment income of about 48%. So all of the individual transactions are listed in the attachment to the report, but here we've just kind of summarized what transactions occurred in 2022. So for the securities that matured, we had 9 of them, 7 GICs, 2 term deposits. The average rate of return across those investments was 1.12%, as they were all shorter term investments that were purchased in 2020 and 2021 when rates were lower. And the balance of those securities was just under 15 million. And then looking at what we purchased 13 total securities, 12 GICs, 1 term deposit. And the average rate of return across those securities was 4.06%. So the increased rates of returns increased our willingness to invest more money in the amount of about 22.5 million compared to what matured. So to look at our entire portfolio as a whole at December 31st, we had a 63.45% in cash on hand, 30.78% in short-term investments, which range from 1 to 3 years, and 5.77% in long-term investments of 4 years and above. So our short-term securities are mainly made up of GICs that are set to expire in the next couple of years. And the long-term securities include a 3 million 10-year deposit note, and the rest is in our one fund portfolio account. So when comparing the weighted average across these term maturities, you can see that the highest return, 3.36%, next to the cash on hand at 2.32, and long-term at 1.83. So we've also listed here what the funds are that are invested in each. So the cash on hand and short-term securities is cash to meet our general cash flow requirements, as well as reserve funds to be used in the short term. And our long-term investments are reserves and reserve funds invested to try and meet the expected use of those reserve funds. And so here we've just kind of given a visual of how the portfolio has changed year to year. So you can see we've increased our cash on hand and investments by about 15 million or 15% from 21 to 22, and increased our investment income on those funds by about 1.5 million or 179%. So it is important to note here that that balance of 118 million, it does include about 26.5 million in development charges. And we have that budgeted about 14.5 to be used in 2023. And it's also made up of planned contributions to reserve to incrementally fund future projects internally to try and limit our borrowing in the future. So when we collect these funds for those future projects, it's our goal to maximize these funds and make sure they're working for us through investment strategies to just maximize the returns until those future funds are needed. And so we also just want to give a quick update on some of our next steps this year in terms of investments. So I mentioned earlier that the county's investments are governed by the council approved cash and investment management policy. So this policy was created and passed by council in 2009. Although many of the statutory items still apply today, we feel it's a good time to update that policy as we've seen many changes in the economy and investment world. For example, more specifically for us, just the amount of cash we have on hand, interest rates, and just our evolving cash flow needs. And then when looking at what is set to mature this year, we have about 21 million set to mature. A majority of this amount is set to mature in December. So when these securities mature, it'll give us the opportunity to explore reinvesting into higher rate of return options while still ensuring we meet the general cash flow needs. And these future investments will depend on many factors and what we see for rates over the next 6 months. So just in closing, although I was one who summarized and presented this, the legwork to do those transactions included Mary Lou and Sue, so just want to make sure some acknowledgement was given there. And I know I've thrown a lot of percentages and numbers at you, so happy to take any questions or comments that you have.
Thank you, Calvin. Good presentation. Any questions for Calvin? Councillor Eccles.
No, I just, on page 62, total investments, $712,420, 36.55. I guess I'm a bit old school. Instead of going down through everything, I just looked at that and went, holy, this guy needs a raise. He's getting 36.5% on it. And then I was realized that, no, that's just part of the percentage of the portfolio. So because you didn't put the percentage of the average in that one. And I went, but good report and welcome aboard. Thank you. Yeah, just remember he started in TAPS, so it doesn't make him a bad person though.
We'll continue to work with him.
Yeah,
He's gonna stay. He's a good one. Thank you, Kelvin. I don't see any other question. Oh, Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Thanks very much, Calvin. Congratulations on all your promotions within the county. So looking through this, and it's certainly good to see that some people in the county, being one of them, are getting the benefit of high interest rates. It's certainly affecting a lot of others in a negative way. Are we in the market at all, in the stock market? Are we affected by downturns, upturns in the market in any way? Are there other investments that are market based, or are we all GIC based?
So we do have the one fund portfolio account. So it's the only one that has the market value. We have seen, I know from last year to this year, a decrease in that one. So I think it's one of the important things of having that diversified portfolio. So the new GICs we purchased at the end of 21, the rates we saw on those kind of tries to offset those decreases in market value on kind of the one fund portfolio. But other than that, there's none that I'm aware of that are outside that. Yeah. Thanks.
Go ahead, Kim.
In case that's not, I'm not sure if all of the people around the table, if your municipalities are using the LAS, but the product that Calvin is talking about is the oneinvestment.ca. And if you go on there, you can see, but they I don't know what the right kind of, it's almost like a mutual fund. If you don't kill me for calling it like that. Yeah.
Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. So once again, thank you, Kelvin. Moving on to the next report is regarding the acquisition of land for Gray Road 3 and 4 roundabout, the northeast corner. Oh, sorry, my apologies. We need to do the amendments to the bylaw regarding traffic and parking within the County of Gray Road system. Pat, welcome. Someone care to move that? Councillor Eccles, second of Councillor Bartley. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This is just our, I guess, bi-yearly report back on 4788-13, which is our parking and traffic bylaw. I want to thank Matt and Mark for completing this report. So that our engineering guys do spend a lot of time looking into this, whether it's a call from somebody saying, why is it turning 80 right before my house? Can we move it to 60? And so we go out and investigate all those. The guys will put the traffic counters up. We'll see what the average speeds are. Invariably, 85% of people are speeding is pretty consistent. So we basically stick with our policy as much as we can. But you'll see on page 65, there is a summary of all the these actually aren't all the ones we've addressed, but they're the ones that we kind of brought through. At one point, we were bringing every request through, and it just gets to be too big a report because some of them are just so far outside our policy that they're probably not worth discussing too much. But you'll see how it says, whether it meets the criteria or not, and what transportation recommends. So the first one I'll go, and if you want to really kind of visualize, it's probably good to use the maps in your report. So the first one is in Katy. And there's a map on page 69. Basically, it's just, we had made it no parking a while ago because of the market, and Katy is a very busy little hamlet there. And there's a lot of people there. It's a 4-way stop. There's a lot of trucks, cattle trucks and such going through there. So we had made it no parking, but the church has requested that for services that we make parking okay on Sunday. So, it's too far to have people walk, people walk aren't maybe so mobile, so it's nice to park in front of the church. So we're recommending approval of that. The next one, the map is on page 70. is a request from West Gray in Allen Park. So Allen Park, there's quite a bit of vertical curves and horizontal curves there, and it's, you know, it's 80 right now. And they're asking that it be 60, and we support that. I think it's a good idea. It's a little tricky spot for drivers. There have been a few accidents there, and we're supporting the moving that down to 60. On page 71, it was a request from a resident as well, and you'll see we don't really have anything in our policy about moving lower speeds out to the edge of say a settlement area, but in general we have been doing that in quite a few places. It almost, you know, we get a lot of people that are really, you know, they don't slow it. You're going 80, you're going 100, it slows to 50. By the time you get into where the houses are, they're going 80, not 50. So residents really seem to like that speed limit is, at least the ones that call us seem to really like that the slow area is farther out. It does sometimes feel a little strange when you think, well, why am I going 50 here? Like there's nothing around. But we found a lot of them we've moved out to the edge of the settlement area. So we're supportive of that as a general principle, so people don't have to jam on the brakes and they can start slowing down to get to, you know, where the busier streets and that pedestrians and that type of thing are. Similar on page 72, outside of Walters Falls, there's a little area where it goes from 60 to 80. There is a rock cut there where Gray Road 40 meets 29. That is not the greatest thing to see around. It does, I mean, we don't have a history of accidents there. People are very careful sometimes in those intersections that make you feel uncomfortable. But we promote moving that down to 60 just to give anybody coming out of 40 a little more time to react. And the last one is just kind of a housekeeping on page 73. Owen Sound had made some changes with the developments in going down near the Bayshore. And so we're just making our traffic bylaw meet what they had already enacted. So that's just kind of a housekeeping issue, those three, and we're supporting Owen Sound on that. So I think that's it. If there's more questions or.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions on any of those? Councillor Matrosovs.
Thank you very much. Through the warden, a question to Director Hoy, or perhaps this may be to my colleagues from West Gray. Just the one in which it does not meet the policy criteria, but it's still being recommended, the extension to the hamlet. Could you please provide some context to an understanding of the nature of that hamlet versus others across Gray County where it warrants bringing it out to the limit? Because you know, population, concentration, what is it? What is it that makes sense for this to be extended? I did hear that that Director Hoy said that this is becoming a more standard practice to go out to the limits, but yes, it provides confusion to those of us driving around in Gray County when it does start way back, and members of the public need to know why this community and not their own.
Thank you for that question. I might be able to try and answer that. So in terms of Neustadt, it's one of our primary settlement areas in the county official plan. It's a fully serviced settlement area, has municipal water, municipal sewer. So no doubt it's, you know, that's what it, I guess, in terms of the distinctions between this community and some of the other smaller hamlets that are identified as more secondary settlement areas in our official plan. So this is one of our primary settlement areas. And so as Pat indicated, we've had similar requests in the past for our primary settlement areas or more built up urban areas. And although this section has not been built up at this stage, we do anticipate that it will be built up, and it's designated and zoned to allow for it to be built up in the future. So so extending it, getting traffic familiar with those speed limit reductions and anticipating that development we hope will happen at some point in the future within this part of Neustadt, I think makes sense, and that's why staff are recommending it.
Okay. Councillor Eccles.
And I think just with the line of the road alignment or the factor there, it's been something that's been that way for quite a while with the curves that are there, and the approach as you come literally into the downtown core. It's down a hill and it's still on a curve. And there has been more than one occasion, and I was personally involved in one where the individual, because of winter conditions and whatnot and speed, ended up ruining the front end of my vehicle. So it's something to get that slowed down just a little bit more, and certainly with the increased traffic around the brewery itself, and that very thankful of staff of recommending this.
No indication of fault in that particular incident. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I'll call a question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pat. Moving right along. Now we'll deal with the one, sorry. Yeah, do I do that first? Okay, if it pleases council, we're going to divert a little bit from the agenda here. We do have the delegation that was scheduled for, I think, noon, but if it would be all right, we'd like to do it now ahead of the last couple items on our agenda. Does anybody object to that? Okay. So what I'd like to do is take a few minutes to recognize and congratulate two well-respected local farmers and leaders in the ag community. On June 11th of this year, Ray Robertson and Brian Gilroy were given the esteemed honor of being inducted into the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame for 2023. Unfortunately, Brian couldn't be with us today. However, I'd still like to take a moment to highlight his contributions to agriculture in Grey County and Ontario. Mr. Gilroy is a well-known figure in Ontario's fruit growing community. In 1987, Brian bought an essentially abandoned orchard near Georgian Bay and transformed it into Nighthawk Orchards. Through his involvement with several agricultural organizations, he helped to grow Ontario's apple industry and the edible horticultural section nationwide. Brian has also maintained his local Georgian Bay Fruit Growers Association membership for more than 30 years. Mr. Gilroy was instrumental in establishing the Holland Marsh Growers Association, working to improve crop quality and yield while enhancing environmental sustainability. He actively promotes the interests of Ontario's farmers at regional, provincial, and national levels, advancing partnerships and collaborations. His dedication to agricultural education and research has left a lasting impact on the apple sector, and his work on improving farming practices will help guide the industry for years to come. Throughout his career, Brian has shown leadership through positions including chair of the Fruit and Vegetable Growers of Canada Apple Working Group since 2014. He's been a director with Food and Farm Care Ontario and chair from 2016 to 2018. And he's been a director of the Royal Winter Fair for 15 years. Brian was also a founder of the Ontario Apple Growers and helped guide the organization through two significant crises: the 2009 tornado that struck the Georgian Bay apple growing region, and in 2012, a very early spring frost, which led to an 85% loss of Ontario's apple production. Brian Gilroy's remarkable achievements and commitment to Ontario's ag have rightfully earned him a place in the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Brian, and thank you to all of your for all of your contributions. Now, I'm really happy, and I'd like to welcome Ray Robertson up to the podium. Ray, come on up. Ray, we're very happy. Ray, we're very happy you could be here with us today. I'd like to also recognize Lori Smith from Gray Ag Services, who is accompanying Ray today. Welcome, Lori. Mr. Robertson is quite the distinguished figure in the field of agriculture. Ray has made significant contributions to the agricultural sector by promoting agricultural education, implementing innovative farming practices, and demonstrating considerable leadership. He was a founding member of the Canadian Forage and Grasslands Association and a strong voice for the Ontario Forage Council, where he helped develop the Ontario Hay Marketing Forum. Those efforts opened up many new markets in places as far afield as China, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Many across Grey County will know Ray from his role as the president and executive director of Grey Agricultural Services, where he plays a crucial role in improving agricultural productivity and sustainability in our region. Ray has also worked with the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association to encourage the adoption of the Environmental Farm Plan and to secure the funding to enhance conservation work on bioengineering and stream bank stabilization techniques. Additionally, Ray's dedication to community involvement and his commitment to the advancement of agricultural practices have earned him recognition and admiration within the industry and across Grey County. His induction into the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame is a testament to his remarkable achievements and unwavering commitment to the field. And on a personal basis, I've known Ray for many years, and he is an absolute gentleman and always available to listen and offer help in any situation. Ray, on behalf of Grey County Council, we congratulate you for your lifetime of achievements and your countless contributions to agriculture here in Grey County. Thank you for your commitment and your passion. Thank you, Ray, and I welcome you to say a few words if you wish. I'll just get Randy, I'll turn the microphone on there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And after that, I'm not sure what I should say anymore after. No, I have to, I'm certainly honored to be nominated, and I have to say it came as a total surprise to me. At one time I was getting a lot of questions, and I thought, well, maybe the Internal Revenue or something was investigating me or something like that. But then I found out they come around to tell me that maybe I was being nominated for this award and that they had to get more information. There was things that some parts that seemed to be missing in what they were talking about. So I got to realize I was being nominated, but beyond that, I thought, well, it's an honor just to be nominated. But I have to say, when you're nominated by your peers, it's pretty humbling, really, and hard to believe it. But I do thank everybody for their help. It's been a great journey for me, really, in the agriculture community. I guess I want to say, if you're born to be a farmer, and if you can take the boy from the farm, but you can't take the farm from the boy. And I've always had a strong interest in agriculture, and most of my life, I guess. I was just thinking the other day, like, how many years really it's been. I don't usually think about that because the time goes so fast, you never even think about it. But I think probably over 50 years I've been involved, because I started in Junior Farmers, and I have to say, some of you are old enough to remember when Junior Farmers was really active in the area. Just a tremendous organization, and really, I think, set the basis for my work into the future. Really, it broadened my perspective, and sort of caused me to go back to school again. I knew I had to go back and get because I didn't finish grade 11 when I was in high school. My father passed away, and I came home to run the farm with my mother and my two sisters. And then I realized after a few years, it wasn't big enough, and I had to get more land, and it wasn't a lot of things. So I decided to go back to get my grade 12 status, and went to business college, and then worked with Grey County and with the Ministry of Revenue eventually then for 12 years. So that sort of was set the basis for a lot of other things to come after. So I give a lot of credit to Junior Farmers for that. It's a great organization that is a presence now, but not very much. But certainly made some with the Grey Ag Services too. I have to thank Grey County Council for their belief in me when we started the Ag Center 23 years ago, when the Ministry of Agriculture closed down all the county offices across the province. And I had this brainwave that I was working with about 600 farmers at the time out of the ministry office, which on contract, and I had no budget. They closed the office. So I thought, there's a need for an office here. And I had a sort of a brainwave for it, talked to county council. And I have to say, from that time forward, you've been extremely supportive. And I have to really thank you for that, because it's a service that's really needed. And up until COVID, especially, there was hardly a day that somebody wasn't in that office that said, am I ever glad you guys are here? And I mean, the word service in our name is probably the key word there. service to the farm community is really important. And we really have been able to do that. And I have to compliment the staff. Lori is with me today, just a tremendous lady that has really taken the Ag Center to the next level sort of thing. I really appreciate what she's done, and the other staff, tremendous people there. So I thank the county council for giving me the opportunity to be that voice for agriculture to help in an area. And I have to say, I can't say whether the thousands of people across Grey Bruce, across Ontario, across Canada, and internationally, we've been able to help. Anyway, excuse me, I get a little emotional sometimes. I do want to thank Grey County Council for all your support, and I trust that you will carry on to support the Ag Center long after my days, and support Lori and the staff that we have there. Just a great crew there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray, and we think you're just getting started, really. So we do appreciate your efforts, indeed. So Ray and Lori, you're absolutely welcome to stay for lunch. We hope you will. We just have a few more business items to tidy up here, and then we'll so those that are really in the know up here, that excludes me, are suggesting that we should break for lunch now, which I think is a wonderful idea. And so we'll recess for lunch, and we'll take a couple photos with Ray and Lori, and then we'll reconvene here to finish the business of the day. All right. Somebody insists on a time. Let's say 1 o'clock. I think it would be good if we had all of county council, so don't go too far away for the picture. Whether you want to stay for lunch or not is up to you. 1 minute warning. So we have the big thumbs up from the engineers at the back of the room. So we will bring this meeting back to order. It's 1 o'clock. The lunch was tremendous. Thank you very much. I don't know, Madam Clerk. Sarah looked after that, so it was great. Sorry you missed out on it, Peter, but you know, you snooze, you lose. Come on. Show up and you can join in, buddy. Come on. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Trevor. Welcome, Trevor. Trevor is going to give us a report on the acquisition of land for Gray Road 3 and 4 roundabout northeast corner. Would someone care to move Councillor Pringle and Councillor Carlton? Trevor, welcome.
Thank you, Warden Millen, and good afternoon, County Council. Hopefully you guys got some birthday cake at least, but otherwise missed opportunity, but yeah, so for Gray Road 3 and 4 here, in April 2020, we were successful in our application for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. And part of that stream was to pay for the construction of a roundabout at the intersections of Gray Road 3 and 4 in the municipality of West Gray, so just east of Hanover. Following this, Transportation Services staff proceeded with an RFP for consulting services for the design of the roundabout, and MTE was successful in that bid in 2020. And since then, they've been progressing the design and is currently at the 90% design stage. During the design process, it was identified that in order to construct the roundabout, there would be 3 property takings that would be required on 3 of the 4 corners at the intersection. We do have an image. I don't know if we'll bring that up. Yeah, these would be the 3 kind of property takings here. Now, these lands are identified as areas required for circulating lanes and approaches, the asphalt boulevards, curb and gutter, grading, and also roadside ditching. The project has been designed in such a way to reduce the property impacts as much as possible, while still providing a design that meets current standards for roadways, such as sight lines and the diameter of the roundabout and approach speeds. So these 3 property requirements are identified in blue, green, and red. But this first report speaks directly to the property on the northeast corner, which is in blue there. The 2 properties on the south side we'll talk about in the next report. So based on the roundabout design and the subsequent property taking requirements, we hired an independent valuation consultant to conduct an appraisal on the properties to determine an appropriate land value. Once that appraisal was complete, staff met with the property owners with an offer based on that value. Those property owners counter offered with another offer, which we subsequently brought back to council in July 28th last year. At that time, we were given direction to proceed with negotiations, and if we were unsuccessful, we were to commence expropriation proceedings. In this case, staff were successful in negotiating a purchase price for this property that was based on the upset limits provided by council, and we came to an agreement for the property. So this report today is asking for council approval to acquire the property identified as Part 1 on the draft reference plan dated March 28th, 2023, included in the report package, which is described as part of lots 5 and 14 of registered plan 53 in the geographic township of Bentic, municipality of West Gray, Gray County. And that's for road widening purposes to construct the roundabout at Gray Road 3 and 4. If there's any questions on this one.
Pat, did you have anything to add, or Mike? No, not at this time. Any questions regarding the report? Not seeing Mr. Eccles, Councillor Eccles.
Thank you. And this property, just looking at it, would be more specific. It's within 25% to 50% bigger than the other two on the south corners.
Yeah, I believe it is about 20% bigger than the one on the red corner, and almost 80% bigger than the green one. And the one thing about the blue property too is you will notice that you can kind of see from the design it's not all in that property, but what we actually have on the north side of Gray Road 4, there's already an easement that the Gray County owns. So this is basically just extending that easement straight down to the intersection. It's really just to clean up the property limit for us, so it's more easily identified.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Trevor. Although don't go too far away. The next one is a report regarding the acquisition of land for Gray Road 3 and 4 roundabouts, southeast and southwest corners. So Trevor, you're taking this one as well. Very good. All right, I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Deckert and Councillor Nielsen. Thank you.
Okay, so report TRCW 1523 is in regard to the green and the red property takings on the image that disappeared. So again, these properties are also identified in order to construct the roundabout. The one thing about these two properties is we've minimized them as much as possible to make sure that everything within that is for the construction of the roundabout. And then in contrast to the previous report though, the negotiations that we had were unsuccessful with the property owners for both of these properties. So, which is why we are coming to you today. And I'll let Michael talk more about the legal process revolving around that.
Good afternoon, Warden. Happy birthday. Good afternoon, County Council. And thanks to Trevor for doing the introduction, because he can explain the job far better than I can. The process that we're following is a process that was set out, was adopted by council last year, providing a general framework for expropriation. Most expropriations it's statutorily driven, so you follow the procedure under the Expropriations Act, and acting on the direction from county council, since we couldn't reach an agreed purchase for each of these properties in accordance with council's instructions. Notice was given of intent to apply, seek approval for expropriation. All the relevant owners were notified appropriately. Notice was printed in the Hanover Post at the relevant time, and in that process, owners that are affected could apply, excuse me, for what's called a hearing of necessity to ask whether the taking is necessary for county purposes. If they did that, you'd have to see that report before we could be back asking for approval to expropriate. No request was made for hearings of necessity in this case. So the purpose why we're back today is to ask committee to recommend to yourselves a couple of weeks from now that council in its capacity as approving authority approve the expropriation. Once it's approved, an expropriation plan is registered on title to convey legal ownership of the property to the county, and shortly thereafter the county is able to take occupation of the property. Occupation of the property is necessary to actually proceed with the construction. Once this taking is complete. There's a third phase that follows after, which is to settle the purchase price. It's done by way of appraised values, and disputes in that process would be heard in hearings that are conducted through the Ontario Land Tribunal if an owner wishes to go there. But it's largely a negotiation and settlement driven process. And of course, as with any acquisition, we're going to try to settle it on appropriate terms wherever possible. So the motion that is here today is simply to approve us proceeding forward with that. At this time, we've had no further success in attempting to negotiate either acquisition within the bounds of council's instructions.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Trevor. Any questions from council regarding the acquisition? Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and to Michael. So when you start that process, could they turn around and make a deal?
For you, Mr. Warden, yes, absolutely. We can reach a negotiated settlement at any time up to asking the land tribunal to conclude the value by arbitration. But there's a lot of runway between here and there. So we would always look to try to reach an amicable settlement.
To continue, thank you. So sometimes that might spur things on. Is there any reason why they are disputing it generally? Is there any reason? Is there something like, is there a monument there? Or is there something that they don't, or just it's all about value?
For you, Mr. Warden, without getting into certain information that was in the closed direction from council, I can advise that the land that's being acquired is flat corners of farm fields in very small amounts of land to be taken at that. They are sizes here 0.0194 acres and 0.0810 acres, so less than 1/10 of an acre each. They're small bits of land.
So my other question complete. Thank you for that information. About a year or two ago, when we first got the announcement of the grant, there was I'll have the picture up there, but there was an individual that came and spoke to us about a concern about driveway and that. And I assume that looks like you've worked around that house and there's no issue there, because I know they did quite a lengthy delegation to council if those maybe at the time were here. And obviously it's not part of the acquisition, but obviously you came to a settlement.
Yeah, so as part of those conversations with the property owner there, what we've actually done is went to MTE to adjust the design such that it's effectively nothing comes any closer than their existing ditching. And that in a way has resulted in a little bit of movement towards the south, which probably expands these slightly, but in general, they're still very much, they would have been required either way. It was just how much. And so yeah, we minimized the work kind of on that northwest corner. What kind of worked in our favor is in general, there really wasn't much work on that corner anyway. They had a lot of concerns, and I think it was more just they weren't exactly sure where their property lines necessarily were, which kind of created some confusion. And yeah, so after that, we basically just made it, we're not going any more than the ditch to just make it clear. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I'll call Councillor Eccles.
Going forward, it sounds like there was some direction given or negotiation runway given in closed session on the property to the northeast. I'll ask the question up front. Is there, in the minds of staff, have you got enough leeway, and or is there anything that needs to be done by council to unhandcuff you during the negotiations?
Through you, Mr. Warden. I would say staff aren't seeking any further direction at this time with respect to negotiation, any negotiated settlement that may need to come forward would come back to council if we needed further direction beyond what's been provided to date.
Okay, any further questions? Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Pat. Moving on to, we have a closed session. Sorry? No,
I'm just,
that's all the,
oh, it's crosswords.
yeah. So we have a closed session to pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss road widening at Gray Road 19 and Crosswinds Boulevard. We will ask Kim Wingrove, Randy Schertzer, Tara Warder, Michael Eterno, Pat Hoy, Trevor Ireton, Kathy Nono, and Rob Hatton staff to remain in attendance. Can I have a motion to go into camera? Councillor Mackey and Councillor McKay. All those in favor? That is carried. So we'll just wait a minute until everyone is in position.